Episode of Sweet Jesus. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus is far sweeter. We are here today continuing to go through parables or parabolic type sayings of Jesus. We're working off of a list in the Lutheran Study Bible, if you happen to have a copy of that. If you don't, that's fine. I believe it's page 1609 in the Lutheran Study Bible has this list, and we're going to try and do this a little more orderly, which doesn't really make sense for us. But, we're going to try. And if you're here, make sure you take a moment to like and subscribe and share and all those good things. Don't forget about these publications that could be a wonderful blessing to you and those around you. The Tales of Nola. Nola's third book is actually coming out hopefully here in, I don't know, I hope a couple of days, but, maybe a week or two at the very latest. And, of course, the Open Arms book, Connecting People to Jesus. That is a book about reaching people with the good news of Jesus. How do you cultivate the kind of relationships that allow for that? And we got a book signing event in the West Bank Gospel Bookstore August 23rd. And openarmslidell.org, openarmslidell.org. You can make a contribution there. But as always, we got to do something sweet with all this. Sometimes we forget. But today, I needed some ice cream, so I got a Haagen-Dazs bar. So grab something sweet, a cupcake, coffee with your favorite sweet stuff, tea with honey, whatever it may be. Pull up a seat and join us.
I have the Snickers. And it's really good, and you eat it very fast because of that.
Fast. And the Snickers is kind of like smaller, I feel like. It's like you don't feel like you've absolutely ruined your entire diet. You're not going to gain 30 pounds because you had a Snickers ice cream bar. But so we are continuing through these.
Does it have the same diva stopping powers that the regular Snickers bar has?
Diva, the hangry moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Maybe. I mean, it's something. It depends on how bad of a state you're in. But yeah, I think it's probably fine. So we're in Luke chapter 6. And actually, this list that we've been working off of, there's a ton of stuff in here. I don't know. We may overlap a bunch with some things that we've already talked about, sort of, come up in this section. But the key that we were looking at, going through the list in order, Luke 6, was it 39? I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He also told them a parable. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? So that's what we're looking at today, the blind leading the blind. It's also mentioned in Matthew 15:14. It's slightly different there, maybe a different context. I mean, this is a phrase that's so often used in society that I'm sure Jesus used it more than once, right? When he uses it in Matthew 15:14, he's actually, it is a similar context-ish. He has said this thing about how it's not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of the mouth. This defiles a person. And then the disciples come and say, do you know that the Pharisees were offended when they heard this saying? And then he answered, every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be rooted up. Let them alone. They are blind guides. And if the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit. And then he explains the whole what goes into the mouth and what comes out and all that kind of stuff. But there is something similar there. It's the Pharisees are there. But what comes right before it in Luke 37 and 38, judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And then he also told them a parable. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, Brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take out the speck that is in your brother's eye. Now in Matthew, it comes up a lot earlier. That's Matthew 7. But I think both those ideas go together. So it's really kind of three things going on here. It's the blind leading the blind. It's connected to this idea of having a log in your own eye, not being able to see, and leading people that have specks in their eye, and they really can't see either, but you're going to really mess them up. And the Pharisees. So I think that's kind of that's the big elements of what's going on there. What do you think about it when you hear this, when you read it?
Well, my way I've always read it is just at the very simplistic level. I never put it back to the Pharisees. I just as like a common sense thing, a blind man leading a blind man, you'll fall into a pit. It just seemed like, yeah, well, that makes sense. You know what I mean? I guess there's some wisdom there, but and then it's it's almost like I said, wasn't looking up toward someone who was leading you or trying to lead you, but just people that you might know, or someone at your own level. Like you just go around judging people with having somebody telling him, oh, you did this wrong, but in the meantime, you've done something worse wrong, type thing. At that kind of an equal level, not from a teacher to a student type level. So I didn't get that out of it in all my previous other readings. So that's why I like this, because it gives a little more depth and it makes more sense, or it tells a different story about what's going on.
A slightly different spin, right?
Right.
I mean, the bottom line, I think, is that if you don't know where you're going, you can't follow someone who also doesn't know where they're going. Right? Or if you don't know where you're going, you shouldn't presume to be able to lead people to somewhere that you don't know where you're going, or you can't even see where you're going. How can you possibly know the way? Eventually, you fall into a pit or anything else. I mean, like, there's 1,000 things that result from that. Not usually getting someplace helpful.
Right.
So the issue with the Pharisees comes up repeatedly, is they are people who are unwilling to recognize that they can't see. They're unwilling to recognize that they have a log in their eyes. Eyes, whatever. And they think that they are just God's gift to everybody. And just because they claim to see, this actually comes up in John. I think it's John 9, where Jesus, he walks by this person who is born blind, and the disciples say, hey, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? making a common assumption in the first century and frankly today that if something happened to you, you must have done something to deserve it. Right? This is actually karma, which everybody's like, oh yeah, karma is so great and wonderful and fuzzy and just put out good things in the. Well, then what about when terrible things happen? Oh man, you really suck. You know, you must have been putting out some bad juju and you didn't even know it. How bad are you? You didn't even know you were doing it. Right. But he says, no, neither this man nor his parents, but that the glory of God might be revealed. He heals him, and it creates this major problem with the religious leaders for the guy and his parents, who interrogate him endlessly and go through this whole big thing. It's a long chapter, and it's all about the healing and then really the fallout. The healing is just a tiny little part at the beginning. And then Jesus, at the very end of the chapter, actually confronts them. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, the man that he healed, because he wouldn't, he was pointing to Jesus, and they didn't like that. And they said, stop it. Why no one would do this on a Sabbath, I think was actually what's going on. And he finds the guy and he says, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, and who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. He said, Lord, I believe, and he worshiped him. So Jesus is receiving worship. So don't ever let anybody tell you Jesus didn't ever claim to be God. If he didn't claim to be God, he wouldn't have received worship like that. Jesus said, for judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, are we also blind? Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say, we see, your guilt remains. And then chapter 10 is just like where it reaches a fever pitch, where Jesus and the Pharisees and the religious leaders doing battle. You know, it's just.
That was one of the times when they were going to stone him. And he disappeared.
They picked up stones to stone him. So here are people that claim to see, and yet they can't see the Messiah, the promised one, God in the flesh, a fulfillment of centuries of prophetic scriptures fulfilled in him, and they can't see it. Whoa. That's a pretty big deal, right?
That's blind.
You got to be awfully blind.
And that's the thing that they study and they're in charge of and they teach about. And
I mean, we have kind of talked about this and other things like sort of a willful blindness, maybe. I think we can all get into that. I think we see that every single hot topic of the day, politics, right? People have this willful blindness. They don't really want to see the other side or merits in the other team, and whatever it is, you know, like there are millions of options for tribes, you know, that you can jump right in and toe the line, but then you gotta have a willful blindness about the errors of the tribe or about the what's the phrase I'm looking for? The positive qualities of the opposing tribe or tribes. Right? You have to be willfully blind to reality to stay stuck in any tribe. This is a tribe of people that have an identity built on them being this perfect manifestation of what it means to be Jewish or a follower of the one true God. And so they can't see when they're wrong. I mean, their whole world collapses. Their position collapses. in society and in the culture. And they're really worse because of that. They've got this log, not just a speck, a log. I mean, everybody else, it's a speck, and they know it, and they see it, and it's obvious to them. And there's this big giant log sticking out of it, and they're like, what are you talking about? I don't see a log. So how do you know if you have a log in your own eye?
One way would be somebody else were to tell you. But it would have to be a person that doesn't have a log in his own eye, right?
Not necessarily. It's interesting how if you invite criticism of yourself, make yourself open to it and address it, how quickly it makes it possible to do that for others. If you're not willing to do that, I mean, you can shout and scream all day long and nobody's going to care what you say. They're going to just go, yeah, well, I think we've all been in arguments like that. Maybe with our spouses, maybe with our kids, especially when they hit those glorious years near adulthood. Pre-adulthood, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's...
But you said...
What happens when that happens? I mean, sometimes it's taken out of context and used against you unfairly, but sometimes they're right. Can you hear that? Can you hear that? If you can't, if you won't, then don't ever expect to have a good relationship with your kids, your wife, or anyone else that you're in some kind of relationship with. It just... that you clearly don't care what they have to say. That's what you're saying. Like, I don't care that this is something that you notice and see and whatever. So
that's what they say, out of the mouths of babes, right?
Out of the mouths of babes. Now, that doesn't necessarily change whatever it is that you're arguing about, right? Like, yep, I said that and I did that and I don't care. You're still grounded or whatever. Right. Take your pick. But an acknowledgement of it, and okay, you know what, we should talk about that. But you're still grounded. You're still not going to the party. You're still not this, that, whatever. You don't get the car. You don't yada, yada, yada. I actually said that one time to a pastor who, I mean, it's like, I don't know, he'd been in ministry a long time. You'd think he would have learned, but clearly he didn't. A blind guide, I would say. Not necessarily wrong about everything. I don't think the Pharisees were wrong about everything. But how do you actually lead someone somewhere if... okay, yeah, I do hear somebody. How do you lead somebody somewhere if you don't see the whole picture? Right. So I said something like, well, what if I forget what the actual problem was, some kind of conflict or of some kind, or like there was something that kept happening. And I'm like, well, it's sort of you, but like you can't say that. Right. And so I was like, oh, yeah, well, Matthew 7, like what if we said, hey, do I have any logs sticking out of my eye? What if we said, hey, what am I doing wrong? Just being humble, being willing to admit that there are things that maybe we haven't realized are affecting people around us, and maybe some inconsistencies in what we're saying and doing, or saying in one place but not in all places, and stuff like that. And he just completely dismissed the idea. And I mean, almost like laughed it off. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. What are we going to do? We're just going to go around and shoot at each other? It'll just be a bunch of, big bloody mess, like holes all over the place. Like, I forget exactly what it said, but it was something about like shooting each other and like poking holes in everybody, like, and it would just make the whole thing terrible. And I'm like, well, but I think that's right out of the Bible. Are we, am I reading that wrong? So needless to say, things didn't go much better than that. They kind of got worse. But if we are, this actually comes out of there's a group called Ambassadors of Reconciliation. AOR.org, I think, was their website. I don't remember. I probably should have thought about this earlier. I would have gotten it all. Actually, let me see. I could probably type it right in. AOR. No, that's not AOR.org. Oh, it turned into car.org. Ooh, autocorrect or something. Ambassadors of Reconciliation. There we go. AORhope.org. AORHOPE.org. So they had this thing. I've been through a bunch of their training. They have 4 G's for, guiding conflict resolution. There's 1,000 other things that they have in each of those and other outside kind of parallel things. But the 4 G's are kind of a really helpful way to get through conflict if we're thinking about conflict. First one is glorify God. And you just come to a place where you say, hey, we're in this not for our own ego. We're in this not to win, not for anything else, no other goal except to glorify God. We have to put all the others aside, all the other agendas. We're here to glorify God. And if we're here to glorify God, that's going to be an important foundation for what we're doing. It's going to everything is going to be filtered differently. Everything is going to be viewed through a different lens, prism, whatever. So, hey, we're here to glorify God. And you got to start out there. And you got to pray. Actually, I said at one point when I was doing this with somebody, I was like, we got to make it 5 G's. And the first one is get on your knees, right? Like, just get on your knees because you need to pray. Because if you're not praying, I mean, these types of things can just go south so quickly. So get on your knees. My own personal 5th G. And then glorify God. And then the next one is get the log out. So getting the log out is spending some time thinking about yourself through the lens of Scripture and saying, okay, maybe they're 99% the problem, but that doesn't mean that I have no involvement in a negative way in this conflict. At the very least, like, okay, well, they did this, and this, but, I'm not responding in a kind way, or, I'm letting a root of bitterness in, or yes, I should be somewhat angry, but I shouldn't have been angry this long, or I shouldn't have be angry, but do not sin, right? Or maybe I could have reacted more gently initially, and it wouldn't have cascaded into this big thing, or, maybe my motives have not been the best. Maybe, there's 1,000 different ways. And most of the time, we're not like as innocent as we think. So get the log out. And then saying to them, hey, here's where I see that I could have been more Christ-like, where I could have been the person God calls all Christians to be, and I was not. And that comes first for a reason, because the Bible says so, first of all. Second of all, that's the only possible way you're going to get a hearing. And you can't do it like so many, you see this in like political debates, like anything you've ever done wrong. Well, I'm just too committed, or job interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just care too much. I just work too hard. Some stupid, like, basically like a pat on the back.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, things are not going to go well, and you're going to still have a giant log in your eye, and you're going to be blind, and anybody that's following you, you're going to lead into a pit. So get the log out, then gently restore. That's when you say, okay, hey, now that I realize how much of a jerk I am, now I'm not as riled up about the things you've done wrong, right? Because it's now in perspective.
Right.
So you're like, okay, here's some things, and here's the scripture passages that kind of back it up. And usually you got to have somebody kind of helping you through this, and a third party. That's why I know this stuff. I was trained to do this with the Southeastern District when I was in Maryland with the Southeastern District of the LCMS. And then go and be reconciled. So you forgive one another, and you go through this whole big process. But getting the log out is like the most important thing ever. And it goes back to, when we were doing the Jordan Peterson book, get your own house in order before you go and try and change the world.
Right. Yeah. Same thing, I guess, huh?
The exact same thing. Now,
sneaky, snuck that in there like that.
It's not to say that you have to be perfect exactly, but you need to be open to the fact that you're kind of a mess. You're a hot mess express. I mean, some of us are more hot mess expresses than others. But if you're not working on yourself, then you're never going to have the kind of humility that allows you to help anybody else, ever.
Yeah, you'll find some people like that. You might, you would recognize, well, that person is a hot mess. But then you find out, if you get to know them, that, sometimes they're like the most generous people. It's like, yeah, you look at them, they're a mess and everything in their life, but then they have this other good quality about them, So I guess that kind of balances things out between, you thinking about, I've got work to do, and, they've got work to do, and you get a few things right every now and then, and they get a few things right every now and then. Yeah. But yeah, you're kind of on equal footing, I guess, in that respect.
Yeah. I mean, I think people are looking for this more because there's a lot of people like this that are the blind leading the blind, people that are willfully blind or unwilling to see the logs that they have and are too occupied with the specks. I mean, that's my biggest thing with some of the hot button issues of the day has always been that, that's their problem. It's not my problem. I got so much of my own stuff I'm still working on, so I'm not going to rail against this, or this, because more out of a place of humility. Now, we talked about this a little bit before we got on here, that, the world does seem to need people saying some things, but I don't know. I'm not sure that. I think it just empowers the tribes. That's all it does. When you use a microphone, figuratively or literally, to megaphone to kind of put out these messages, they get twisted and turned around and abused and misused and all that kind of stuff for the tribes.
Mm-hmm.
Either one, any or all, right? Like, it's not like your tribe is going to use it for good. It's like your tribe might use it for bad, and the other tribes might not use it for good. They're going to use it for bad for their tribes, not for yours. Or like, it's just, I mean, you can You can take things on YouTube, clip them however you want, and then put it out again. I mean, they can take 5 seconds, 10 seconds of your talking and be like, this is why this person is going to hell and you should never listen to them again. And we know because we've watched some of these, right? A lot of them. But on the one hand, there is no one who can see clearly, truly clearly, except Jesus. Like there's nobody that is without some type of speck, log, anything in between. It's just not possible. But on the other hand, are the people that we're following, are the people we're leading, are we open to, are they open to correction? You know, are they open to, hey, you got this, like, I mean, if you're sitting at lunch or something, you got like, you know, salad in your teeth. I mean, I have these weird front teeth that always things collect, like right here. Or, you know, poppy seeds or like sesame seeds or whatever. And you're, you know, just this big like black spot, right? Yeah. Mr. Redneck missing 6 teeth in the front because it's just covered by something. You just like, and people, they can't not look at it. Do you want them to just, you want to go into the bathroom 5 minutes later, an hour later, and go, oh my gosh, like that's been there this whole time? How long has that been there? Oh my God. Oh, you wouldn't want that, right?
No, I guess not.
So why do we want people to just be nice to us and not tell us what we need to hear?
Because if you say something to another person bad, then they get offended about that. Or you embarrass them on the spot. You know what I'm saying? You know, or instead of them finding out on their own by themselves, seeing it sometimes is less embarrassing, maybe? I don't know. That situation, but
it takes both parties to make that work. Like, if the person you're having lunch with sees it and goes, dude, you're such a fool. You're the biggest idiot I've ever seen. Go look at yourself in the mirror, moron. That's not the way to say it, right?
Right.
And then there's like the very, very, very subtle, right? Not ignoring it, or not saying nothing, but like the very, very subtle, like, you know, like, like, you know, you just make a little motion. You don't even look them in the eye. You're just like, you know, you just point to it, right? Or there's movies like this where they go like this and they're like, oh, does he think I'm... Does he think I have something? I must have something in my mouth. No, I don't have... Oh, and what was that? There was a movie like we just watched.
There was a scene like that in Big. Big was on TV
Oh,
recently.
I have something on my mouth. Yeah, that's right. They have these, like, sometimes people do it on accident, right? Where they think they have something, and then, oh, does he think I have something? Oh, he must really think and then they're like, and they're going. So being subtle like that is not really all that helpful sometimes. You know, like people may not notice it, they may not pick up on it. So the helpful person is like, oh, you got a little something in your teeth. Oh, okay. Like, hey, I mean, even someone who's a little like overly assertive, like, hey, come here, you got something here, it's right here. Let me just help you with that. They're more out there, more confident, more willing to. Oh, but hey, it happens to everyone. I would want you to do that for me, right? Like that's the kind of relationship that you want to have with people. And why? Well, because you can't see it. It takes a lot to be willing to be able to see yourself, to be self-critical, and not just the way that a lot of people, we just beat ourselves up, right? Like not that, but to be self-aware. Mm-hmm. Like to be able to sort of step outside yourself and see yourself in a situation and in the world and in various relationships and how you're acting and how you maybe are not being as healthy and functional, but dysfunctional, right? That's hard. But think about how easy it is for us to see it in everybody else. Like, whoa, somebody's got daddy issues. Or like, oh my goodness, this person is really arrogant.
I say
like,
we put it to the test at the next potluck. Intentionally put something right here and then go around and talk to people and see which one in the congregation is going to say, hey, man, wipe your mouth. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. But you can
just let everybody know that anyway, if they're listening.
Yeah, this is how we're going to know who's listening. You're going to either laugh or you're going to cry. You're going to laugh at this or you're going to be like, oh, I got some all over my face. Yeah. But you cannot see yourself as well as other people can see you, which is why you need community, which is like Christian fellowship. You cannot be kind of a Lone Ranger type Christian. You have to be in relationship with other people because other people help you see your flaws and weaknesses.
Help you not fall into the pit.
But only if it's a reciprocal kind of relationship.
Right. Otherwise, they might let you fall into the pit. If somebody lets you fall into the pit, then maybe you need to look at what you're doing.
Yeah. But that's the thing with the Pharisees is the Pharisees are the very kind of people that, our culture despises now more than ever before. People that are just arrogant and puffed up and can't admit anything that they've done wrong, unwilling to be even slightly humble about anything. You don't want someone like that because if you're following someone like that, ultimately they are going to walk off a cliff. It's just a matter of time. People that can't and being a leader in churches for 15 or more years now, I know how hard it is to hear other people, their criticisms, because there can be a lot of them sometimes. Like really, there are a lot, and there's a sense in which, being in leadership makes you susceptible to this because people are awful. People are happy to just say, oh, you suck, and here's 15 reasons why, and I'll come back tomorrow with another 15.
Go work on those.
Yeah, you work on those. That ought to be enough for you for a lifetime, but I got 15 more tomorrow. Like, people suck so bad. They are not nice at all. Because, and that's, so you got people who are very willing to point out everyone else's flaws all the time. And when you get up in front of people, it puts a target on you. But as a leader, you need to hear, right? I mean, I think there's thousands of examples of leaders, they end up surrounding themselves with yes men and, they go off a cliff. So you got to surround yourself with people that are going to be honest with you. But in order to do that, you have to receive the honesty. And that doesn't mean that they're always right 100%, but to be able to selectively hear from others and say, okay, that's probably just them being them. Here's something that really needs to be addressed. That's right. That's not the first time I've heard that. That's not the only person. Oh, hey, there's those other people that I've talked to that I have a closer relationship with. They've said this to me. I should address this. I mean, that's the only way to not.
It has to be somebody you trust too, right? Because you could be the person that doesn't say anything, but then, or you could be you could be the yes man and telling the leader this and that. But if you're not trustworthy, then you're the one that writes the tell-all book after it's all over, after everything crashed and burned, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway,
there aren't very many people like that in this world. So, but underneath, in order to get to this point, I think I did a podcast on this way back, like one of the first podcasts. Tim Keller has a book. It's called The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness. And I think he's basing it on, I think it was 2 Corinthians 4. Man, I could have checked on this if I had known we were going this way, but who knew?
Do we ever know which way we're going?
Who knew? Or maybe it's 1 Corinthians 4. Maybe that's what it is. Mixing things up a little bit. Yes, 1 Corinthians 4, right at the beginning of the chapter. This is how one should regard us, as servants of Christ and stewards of the mysteries of God. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found trustworthy. And this is the key section here, these next few verses. But with me it is a very small thing that I should be judged by you or by any human court. In fact, I do not even judge myself, for I am not aware of anything against myself, but I am not thereby acquitted. It is the Lord who judges me. So the idea that he brings out there is that Paul is so secure in his identity that he can say, I don't really care what you think, and I don't really care what anyone else thinks. Now, you could take that the wrong way and say, well, see, I don't care what you think, so I'm never going to listen to you. But he says, the Lord who judges me, right? So there is a sense of judgment, and there is a sense of this perfect will of God, the lens that will be used, to examine all humans on Judgment Day, but that in Christ, what he will see is Jesus, right? This is the Good-O-Meter video we've used a couple of times, right? Like you show up at the pearly gates, right, and everybody has to step on this scale, and it's how good are you, right? And everybody comes up and they fall short. And then this one guy comes up and they're just laughing at what's in his file and like, oh my goodness, this guy, this is going to be interesting, And then Jesus shows up and he takes the file and hands him a different one with like one sheet of paper that just says, he's with me, paid for, something like that. I forget. And then, okay, step on the scale. The guy goes to step on the scale and he says, no, not you, him. So Jesus steps on the scale. He hits the top of the Good-O-Meter thing and takes him in a good direction, not the other direction, right? So in order to receive criticism, we have to have an identity that is built on something other than whatever it is that's about to be criticized. Because if your identity is built on your politics or your your favorite sports team, or your knowledge of your favorite sports team or your profession, right? Like I'm the best at this, or I'm a athlete or, take your pick of extracurricular things. Like if that's me or my writing is whatever, right? If that's who you are, you can't hear that it's bad. Because that means you're bad. But if your identity is built on Jesus, and he says you're a priceless treasure, even though you're kind of a hot mess express, then it's just like, oh, well, he loves me. I'm good. Nothing's going to change based on what I hear right now. Okay, tell me, what's up? That's very different. In fact, there's actually a writer, I forget, I think his name was Ben something, and Tim Keller quotes him regularly in some of his stuff. And he wrote this piece about how he's not a Christian, this guy, but he was writing something for some major publication, a little essay of some kind, and he said, when writing was my everything, like I could not hear anything bad about my writing.
Mm.
And as a result, my writing wasn't actually all that good because no one was helping me with the logs and specs and whatever in my eye.
Mm.
But as soon as my life became about something else than writing, I could hear it because it wasn't an attack on my very core, my inner being. And so if you have trouble with criticism, then you're not building a foundation, an identity that is on a foundation of Jesus. You're building an identity on something else.
Makes sense. Yeah.
You got to be able to say, hey, I don't care what you think. I don't even care what I think. Because that's the other piece. Because we're telling ourselves how great we are. Like, oh, see, I'm still a somebody. I'm still a somebody. Look at how important these people think I am. Look at how good I am at this, right? I'm a somebody. I'm a somebody. I'm a somebody. No one cares. And you shouldn't care what your inner, what is telling you. You should care what God says, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually talked about this today with the camp kids. They have this talent show scheduled for tomorrow. And yesterday they were all like, I'm so nervous, stage fright, blah, blah, blah. So I actually tried to get into this with them, with young kids. But, hey, you can't let other people's opinions of you dictate what you do and don't do,
Excuse me.
And the response isn't, don't think about what they're thinking about. Don't think about what they're thinking about. Don't think about what they're thinking about. And then I did the pink elephant thing. I said, what if I say, don't think about a pink elephant, a giant pink elephant? What are you thinking about right now? A giant pink elephant. Exactly. Right. So you have to actually replace it with something else. So we talked about the pearl of great price. We did that a few months ago. It says, you're a priceless treasure to God. He sent Jesus, who gave up everything to win you. It doesn't matter what any of these people think.
You were wonderfully and fearfully made.
Yep. Yep. That's it. So
don't act like a fool, but yeah, don't worry about it either.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can have a little bit more fun, though, right? Because you're not so worried about it. So there is a little bit of foolishness, so to speak.
Right.
But don't be an idiot. Don't be. I don't know. I didn't think that was exactly where I was going today with this, but what do you think?
Now you just made me think about the Three Stooges.
The Three Stooges? Why?
Because if you watch any of them, they all totally act like idiots.
Idiot. Wow. Yeah.
They were definitely pointing out the flaws in each other and falling into the pits left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, but
or it might actually be sticking the flaw in. the
throwing each other into the pits or
sticking something in each other's eye, right? Instead of exactly.
All the sound effects.
The parable of the Three Stooges. That's right. Rewrite it.
Yeah, maybe there's something there. Let me make a note about that. Parable of Three Stooges. Who knows? We'll come up with something. I don't know. Any other thoughts or questions about the blind leading the blind?
No. It is what it is on the surface, but it is much deeper, as you just pointed out, than what, the obvious of two blind people walking around not knowing where they're going, right?
Yeah. They're so blind. They've let these logs accumulate in their own eye. They never let anybody help pull them out. That they're just leading people around now. and leading him off a cliff, right, into a pit. So be careful who you follow. Be careful how you lead. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. That's about right, time-wise. Make another plug for Nola's Nantucket Rescue coming out. If you've listened this far, you probably love us so much that you are willing to buy one of these publications. And actually, I've thought about if you have any of these others, these two over here, and you do a review on Amazon for both of them, I would give you a free copy of the new book. I would definitely do that. We need some more reviews. Open Arms Connecting People to Jesus, the book signing, August 23rd. Gospel Bookstore on the West Bank Expressway, is it? Parkway?
Mm-hmm. Expressway.
Expressway? Okay. And be there August 23rd. I might have my co-author there with me. I don't know. I haven't heard from him in a little bit. And got a busy couple of weeks coming up. But we appreciate you tuning in. If nothing else, make sure you like it, share it, subscribe, all that good stuff. And taste and see that the Lord is good. Ice cream is sweet, but Jesus
Sweeter.
is far, far sweeter. Follow Jesus. Be careful about all these other blind guides out there. Later, y'all.